If you want to sell your physical therapy practice, your healthcare business in the next 2 years, you need to do these 5 things right now, starting today. Let's get right into it. I'm Dave Kittle, owner of Concierge Pain Relief Home Physical Therapy in the New York City area and the CEO of the Fieldmaker Group. We're currently speaking with practice owners in the New York and New Jersey area about partnering or acquiring some or all their practice. Let's get into it. Step number 1, if you want to sell your practice in the next 2 years, there are 5 things to do right now. Let's get going. Step number 1, start planning right now with your accountant. There are obviously several beneficial reasons for physical therapy practice owners, healthcare business owners to start planning out this process. There's many things to consider. Tax implications, obviously valuation. They might have some experience there, even though that will be potentially more with your broker or advisor. Financial planning, whether it's a wealth advisor, financial advisor, or maybe your accountant helps with that, as well as the due diligence process, which will be your accountant potentially helping you prepare documents that potential buyers like us or other corporate buyers might want to see when you go to sell your practice in the next 2 years. So that's step number 1. Step number 2, you want to increase your taxable profits. I know this one is going to be a little counterintuitive. You want to increase your taxable profits, what is taxed each year for this year, next year, more cash flow. You want to show more cash flow on the books of your business. And we understand that it's very common for practice owners to minimize their tax liability by showing a small taxable dollar amount and having some other personal expenses go through the business books and many other things that potentially could be kosher and legal and maybe just a gray area or on the fence. But the reason why you want to show increased taxable income on your taxes in the next 2 years before you go to sell your practice is that it will help to decrease risk for potential buyers like us. The books are very clean. Yes, you'll be taxed a little bit more in the next 2 years, but you will make that back when you go to sell your practice. You want to show buyers like us or other buyers out there, you want to show them very easily. I mean, obviously we're going to go in, we're going to look at expenses, we're going to look at add backs, and then you're going to say, okay, this car or this gym membership or this, personal family expenses were write-offs. But obviously if you guys take over and buy the practice, those write-offs will not be on the books in the future. We get all that. It'll just accelerate the process of potential buyers being able to see that there is more free cash flow in your practice, and it'll be a little bit easier for us to judge the health of the practice. That is certainly something also in terms of the taxable dollar amount is something, again, for step number 1, for you to talk to your accountant with, all right? Anyway, step number 3, you want to interview several brokers or advisors. Now, I just had a few practice owners reach out to me over LinkedIn, over email, and they're many years away from potentially retiring or exiting their practice. If you're in the 3 years or less, the seriousness, the headspace of you're looking to sell your practice in the next 1, 2, or 3 years, then I think it makes the most sense to contact brokers and advisors. You can interview them. You can check out my show. I've interviewed a bunch of different brokers and advisors on the podcast here. You want to, look at their websites, schedule phone calls with them, Zoom calls with them, whatever. And it's just like anything else. It's like, when we're hiring candidates and you're hiring physical therapists or front desk staff for your practice, obviously you want to see and you want to speak with as many candidates as possible. You can get a sense of like the market out there. You want to get a sense of, comparison and who would be the right fit. Same thing, if not more so, in terms of broker advisors. Now, certain brokers advisors are going to be a little bit more specialized in physical therapy. You probably know some of the names. Some of them have been on my show. And then other brokers and advisors are maybe across several different states, or they help with different verticals in healthcare. Like some brokers help with dental or chiropractic and physical therapy and maybe physician. And then there's some broker advisors that are specific to physical therapy only. So you want to check out them. You want to obviously go to PPS, and you want to ask other practice owners that have also been on the show here who they used and would they use them again if they were to have a new practice and sell their practice again in the future. You want to ask your colleagues, you want to ask physical therapy practice owners, who did they use? Which broker advisor did they use, if they use one at all? And then if they would be in a situation again in the future to sell their current practice or their new business, would they use that type of broker or advisor again or not? Obviously, all these broker advisors, they're not created equal. Some are going to have more expertise in valuation expertise, valuation in understanding the market, the local market where you're at, or the regional market of the comps, of the comparables of like what approximate dollar amount practices and businesses are sold for, or healthcare businesses are sold for. some brokers or advisors, they might outsource the valuation component, and some will do like an independent valuation, and that could cost a couple $1,000. But some broker advisors know the market well enough, they're confident enough, they're experienced enough that they will do their own valuation themselves, obviously in communication with you, with the practice owner, with the potential seller, and be able to get to a potential asking price or a valuation. Brokers or advisors out there, some that will do the valuation process in-house, will save you thousands of dollars. You won't have to outsource that component to an independent billing firm, and the broker advisor will be able to complete things like the valuation by themselves and in communication with you, the practice owner, which will probably save you a few $1,000s at least. And then therefore, some of those things are what add up. And so some of those components could be like the time-saving components, like if you find a broker advisor who only helps physical therapy practice owners sell their practice, like that person is probably like Mike Patuatowski, who's been on the show before, very expert, a very specific individual who's a specialist in what they do, which could also then save you time because they know the market. They know how valuations go. They know us or other buyers out there, and they can reach out to those buyers. So again, it really depends, but those are the types of things you want to think about for step number 3, which was interview several different brokers and advisors. Step 4, you want to select the best broker or advisor for you, obviously. But again, in this process, this could take you weeks to months, and Google their names, Google the broker advisors' names, see what other things are out there online. Maybe they've done interviews on my show. Maybe they've done interviews or talks or blog posts elsewhere. So you want to get a sense of, go online, look these individuals up, get a sense of like who they are, what's their track record. And it's no different than anything else. Like if you're selecting a realtor, or if you're selecting someone else to help with a really big transaction, or if you were at the point, if you were selecting a new attorney or a new accountant, like a new financial advisor, a new wealth advisor, whatever, obviously you do your due diligence as much as possible. So these broker advisors, you want to be looking for their experience. Obviously, they have to start somewhere, but you don't want to be the first potential physical therapy transaction or deal that they're taking on. So you want to ask about their expertise. You want to, ask about their marketing strategy. Some of them will put up these anonymous broker listings on their website, or like the main company's website. And some don't. Some already know the potential buyers like us or other buyers out there. And then the brokers will just reach out to us, and they'll say like, my client saw you on the show or this interview, or, said you have a good podcast or whatever. And then they reach out to me directly, or, vice versa. You're looking at on Google, you're looking up practice owners. Who else have they used in the past? Or you're looking up these practice owner representatives, these broker advisors. Who did they use? What's their experience level? And then again, what's their marketing strategy? How do they get your business confidentially in front of other buyers like us and other buyers out there? Usually, a lot of the broker advisors are going to be reaching out to the different potential buyers out there, which is one of the big reasons why I put the show out, because then we get broker advisors reaching out to me because we're putting out this content, and it's kind of accelerating the ability for these broker advisors to reach out to us. So also pricing strategy. There's a lot in here. I'm not going to dig into it. We've gone over in other shows, but some broker advisors will charge a retainer, several $1,000s up front. Some broker advisors, like for example, Chris Vandeford, who is the broker and owner at Transition One, helps mostly dental practice owners exit their practice, and he does not take a dime from you until you sell your practice. And I know a lot of broker and advisors now do this, or they're doing it more and more often, where they don't make money until you make money, and they will get a percentage. And I've done a show on what percentage and what commission percentage broker advisors have usually will ask for. You'll have to check that out. But then their incentives are aligned with yours. They're not going to just milk a bank account and charge you $1,000 a month, or charge you $5 or $10 grand up front or something like that, which some do. Again, you got to weigh the pros and cons of like, what do they actually give you? What are the deliverables? What's the value that they do for that? Some probably do deliver a lot of value in education, expertise, and counsel and experience for you up front. And so maybe it's worth $5 or $10 grand up front. I don't know. And some of them might be interfacing with your wealth advisor, your financial advisor, your private accountant, or your attorney, et cetera. And so if that were the case, then yeah, maybe that would be worth $2,000, $5,000, $10,000 up front in value for a cost of that. It could be. Also communication and accessibility. So communication, you want to make sure that these broker advisors are great but not super swamped with bigger deals, bigger potential asking prices and bigger practices that they're selling. And then you potentially kind of fall by the wayside, because if you're in the $1 million to $2 million or $3 million purchase price range, then you might not be their main priority, or maybe you're going to be passed off to some junior associate or analyst or something like that. It depends depends on which broker advisory firm and all that. And then again, so we talked about the pricing strategy, a little bit of valuation. What are the fees? What are the terms for this? Some of these broker advisors will obviously want to have you, locked up for a certain amount of time. And I've heard some of them will just auto renew every, 3 months, 6 months, every 9, 12 months, something like that. But you, the practice owner, should be able to get out of that anytime you want once it expires. And it's usually not a forever engagement. It's usually some fixed timeline in terms of the length of the engagement. Anyway, so that was step number 4, which is selecting the best broker advisor for you. Takes a lot of time, due diligence. That's why we're talking about, if you're looking to sell your practice in the next 2 years, it's going to take you weeks or months, sometimes just days. But to do a lot of this is certainly in terms of like more dollar amount for your taxable income. That's going to take the rest of this calendar year to kind of get yourself focused on that if you're going to do that. Step number 5, understand a reasonable timeline and transition process. So really quick, I've done a whole other episode on timelines for exiting and selling your practice. It's like everything else in healthcare and physical therapy. It depends. And so the timeline could be 60 to 90 days, like 3 months, or it could be 9 to 12 months. And it really depends on so many, it depends on, are you a gigantic, do you have 25 locations and it's going to take a while and it's a big number and there's a lot of lawyers and accountants involved? Or if your practice is going to be worth, let's say, in the $1 to $3 million range. I mean, it shouldn't necessarily take 12 months to do that type of a transaction and a deal. It certainly could. But understanding the reasonable timeline is fairly straightforward. I think the transition process that I want to talk about a little bit more really quick is super important to us, the buyers, because we want to have you stay on board typically for 1 or 2 years or 3 years. It really depends on, do you have any health and wellness issues? Do you really need to get out financially? Are you moving? Are you moving from one coast to the other? Are you moving from one side of the country to the other? Are you moving out of state? What is going on here with your situation? Transition process is really, it's going to depend on a lot of things, but ideally practice owners should certainly know from buyers like us and other corporate buyers out there that most of these corporate buyers will want you to stay on for 1 or 2 or 3 years. And if they're only going to buy 60 or 70% of your practice and you're going to be retaining 30 or 40% equity ownership of your practice, well, then obviously it makes sense for you to maybe not work as much, maybe only be in the office 40 hours a week, for example, and that's a whole other employment contract. But having you stay on indefinitely until they potentially want to offer to buy out the rest of your equity. So if they bought 70% and you retain 30%, maybe you stay on board for indefinitely for the foreseeable future until maybe that bigger corporate sells off to, they close their private equity fund that they're backed by, they sell to a bigger buyer, a bigger strategic, whatever, USPH buys them, whatever it might be. But the biggest thing about this step that I want to convey is the importance of the transition process, because buyers like us, we want to minimize risk. We want to have continuity of operations. There's many cases where you could continue to stay in control of the day-to-day, make a lot of the decisions, the hiring, the admin, the billing, some of those things you might want to get out of, and then some of the buyers will take over those things for you. But in the transition process, there's a lot of knowledge transfer. We want to minimize risk. We want to mitigate risk. So we want to minimize the amount of risk. And if you are staying on board and in the office moving forward, then that shows stability in the practice, and your staff members don't start looking to go work somewhere else and they go on Indeed and start looking at other jobs elsewhere, which would certainly compromise the strength and stability of the transition process. So buyers like us, we want to minimize all of these types of risks, and the transition process is really, really key for you to understand. So again, part of why I put out this content is to teach practice owners that just because you're going to sell your practice, it does not mean you're going to get the money and just completely walk out the door the next day and never go back to your practice. That's really not how it works for a lot of these deals, for a lot of these transactions. And again, just to touch on staff retention, we're buying your practice, we're buying 60, 70, 80, maybe 100% of your practice. We need to retain staff. We need to maintain the continuity of care for your patients. We want to continue to help impact the community. We need to retain staff for stability and making sure that we can obviously in the future recoup our investment in this acquisition, in this partnership of this practice. And staff retention is obviously a crux here. It's certainly a big supporter of how well this type of a transition, how well of a partnership could actually be. And obviously, if a bunch of staff get spooked, they get scared, they want to go work somewhere else because they're afraid of new ownership, or you, the owner, is no longer in the office, obviously that can compromise things. So that is the 5 steps. If you want to start your practice in the next 2 years, those are the 5 things to start right now. Again, step number 1 was start planning now with your accountant. Step number 2, increase taxable profits, show more free cash flow in your practice. You can certainly do that by increasing revenue or decreasing your expenses, or both, right? Step number 3, interview several brokers, advisors. That's going to take you weeks, if not months, maybe just weeks. Step number 4, select the best broker for you. Only you know yourself the best. And so you certainly will be able to interview several and pick the best individual or firm or agency that would best represent you and what you believe in and the process that you are about to embark on. Step number 5, understand the reasonable timeline, kind of in that 3 to 12 month window. Certainly can depend on a lot of situations. And the second part of step number 5, the transition process. If you find this helpful, valuable, go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube, comment below. If you have any questions, let us know, topic ideas, whatever it might be. Check us out also on iTunes and Spotify. And that's it for the Dave Kittle Show. We'll catch you next time here, and have a great one. Bye. Hey, it's Dave Kittle. Are you a healthcare business owner or physical therapy practice owner who is looking to figure out your succession plan or exit strategy? We might be able to help. And in fact, we may be interested in acquiring your practice. If you're interested, you can reach out to me. Shoot me an email at dave@conciergepainrelief.com. That's DAVE at CONCIERGE, painrelief.com. Or you can call me at any time, 646-781-8884.